Okay, so we all know that pitch is a really important part of music, and in music notation we use letter names to identify pitches on a staff. If you went through the first line of this example and played all of these pitches on the piano, you'd notice that they all sound somewhat similar to each other. And then if you know a little bit about music notation, you'd know that all of these are actually C's. Okay? The difference between them, though, is that they're all C's in different octaves. So this is fundamentally the difference between what we would call pitch and pitch class. Okay? So pitch is the letter name that we give to any note, and we don't worry about the octave. So all of these notes on the first line are the same pitch class, and that is C. Now the octave refers to the specific pitch, and as we said, most of these are different, or some of them are anyway. So let's go through each of these now and identify the octaves that they're in. So as we said, this first one is a C, and you may note that this one is what you've learned as middle C. For the octave designation, we're going to call this one C4. Okay? Now, anytime you encounter a C in either direction in notation, you're going to change the octave designation. Okay? So this next one is the C an octave higher than C4. So we're going to call this one C, of course, because it's the same pitch class, and 5 because it's an octave higher than C4. Okay? So as you might have guessed, this next one is C6. Now into the bass clef we have another C, and in this case we can figure out where that is in relation to middle C. So if we know that middle C on the bass clef is actually here, so there's our C4. Okay. So this is one octave lower than C4, so we're going to call this one C and 3. Okay? So in the next four notes, we actually have all of the same notes and the same octaves. I've just written them in the different clefs so that you can use that as a point of reference when you're reading your alto and your tenor clef and your bass clef. Okay? So this is C4 in the alto clef. Oops. Keep the colors consistent here. C4, and this is C4 in the tenor clef, and this is of course C4 in the treble clef, and this last one, as we said before, is C4 in the bass clef. Okay, so now let's go through a few examples that aren't all C's, and let's identify both the pitch class, which is the red part of the annotations I've made on this first staff, and then the octave designation, which are the green numbers that I've written above. Okay, so this first example is, as you know, a B flat. Okay, so we're going to call that B flat because it's a pitch class B flat. And you'll note that this B flat lies between C4 and C5. So you're always going to give the octave designation that is the same as the lower C within that octave. So in this case it's going to be B flat 4. Okay. This next example is a D, and this is also going to be D4, okay, because it's just above C4, okay. Any note that's above C4 and below C5 on the staff is going to have the octave designation 4, okay. So this next example is a little bit tricky. We see notation here says that this is a B, and it has a sharp on it, so it's a B sharp, and it's written just below C4, but of course if you went to the piano and you played B sharp, this particular B sharp, and you played C4, you'd note that you're hitting the same key. Okay? So this is because these notes are what we call enharmonically equivalent. and that just means that they sound the same even though they have different pitch class names, okay, or different letter names. Okay, so the B sharp and the C4 that we learned before, these are the same actual note on the keyboard. Okay, now for consistency, we're going to always go by the notation and the letter name in order to differentiate these. So this is actually going to be B sharp 3 because it's written below a C4 on the staff, even though it doesn't actually sound that way. Okay, so that's a little bit tricky with that, but that's how we're gonna do that. This next example here is a D flat, so that's the pitch class name, and the number, the octave designation, we notice that it's one semitone above C3, so it's going to be D flat 3. Okay. This next example is a C sharp, and of course we know that this is C sharp 4 because it's right on one of the C's. Okay. The next one is G sharp, and it's the G sharp that's above C5, so it's going to be G sharp 5. And the next one in the alto clef, this one might take you a little bit longer, but you'll get good at it with some practice, is the A flat that's above C4. Okay, so this is going to be A flat 4. Okay, A flat 5 would be above C5. Okay, and this last one in the tenor clef is a little bit tricky as well. So let's work through this together. So we know that that's C4 on the line there, and that means we know that this one here is C3. So the octave designation is going to be 3. Okay, C, and then this is a third above C, so it's an E, and it has a sharp on it, so it's E sharp 3. Okay, so the first part of the name is the pitch class, okay, the letter name, and then the second part is the octave designation. And remember that the octave designations are always based around the C's that surround that particular octave. Okay, so that is pitch and pitch class and octave designation and a little bit of enharmonic equivalence. I hope you enjoyed this video. Many more to come.